So welcome to the Film Ireland podcast. I'm here with Stephen Shields, who's a fantastic writer, and Hugh O'Conor, who's a writer slash actor slash director. So the hyphenate is in full flow there.
It's a proper multi-hyphenate.
It is a proper multi-hyphenate.
Oh God.
Yes.
Hey guys.
Hey, how are
thanks
you?
for coming in and chatting to us.
It's my pleasure. Great to see you.
Myself and Stephen actually we went to see it in the cinema last Sunday. Really enjoyed it. It was lovely, kind of nice comedic Sunday film.
That's
and
great.
You filmed it around the corner from my house.
No way. In Glasnevin?
Yeah. Well, I'm in Finglas.
In Finglas.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I reckon, and I saw it, I was like, hang on, those houses are everywhere. And that's the way I went. Yeah.
Creemore. Yeah.
I was wondering, there's a school, my old school actually, around the corner from there.
That's where
were
our
they
base,
all out there smoking and fighting and stuff at lunch
break? But that's
break?
where our base was, in the school, and we shot some of it around there as well. Yeah.
Okay. God. The flashbacks. But it's a really gorgeous story actually. About the two sisters and like a nice kind of interesting dynamic. But again, it's written by a lad in his 40s, and then you took it on to Paul Murray.
He wrote Skippy
Dies,
the novel. Yes,
exactly.
How do you used to get together to decide to do a project together?
So the short version of that is that I was working on a feature myself, and this was probably about 2010 when Andrew Meehan was still kind of the development guy in the film board, do you remember? And he'd been really supportive with the shorts and stuff, but then I kind of came a cropper with my feature script. He decided after the first draft that he didn't think it was working, but he thought I needed to start again, and he wasn't going to give me second draft funding until I don't know what. So So I got quite not depressed, but I was sad about it, and I didn't know what to do. And I thought, maybe look, I should work with a writer and not be trying to just do it myself as a feature as well. It's a big project. Maybe I look back on it now, I think Andrew was right, even though the story was interesting. I might come back to something about it, and now I'm trying to maybe work on something new vaguely related to it. But in the meantime, I was doing a play in the Gate with an actor called Stephen Swift, who was so lovely and passed away unfortunately about 2.5 years ago, and I was reading Skippy Dies in the dressing room we were sharing a dressing room, and he said, "Oh, I know Paul," and I was like, maybe I could talk to him about writing. And for some reason, because I was really enjoying it, it was a big deal at the time. If you remember, the book was kind of like, I don't know, David Cameron's photograph.
On holidays.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember it in the paper.
It kind of made a big deal, and it got longlisted for the Booker and stuff like that. So it was. I grew up. I went to Gonzaga, which was hilariously middle class, posh school, but he went to Blackrock, which was kind of where Skippy Dies was sort of based, and so we met up, and I kind of just sort of said to him, look, if we were to write something, you write it, I'll direct, because I don't want to fight with you, because we're not having, he's a novelist and he wouldn't have worked with another writer really before, and I wasn't super confident either, so I sort of pitched him a vague idea where I was like, Twin Peaks and Terenure, or something like that. It was like an Irish kind of weird I sort of said a teenage story, maybe like River's Edge, which I loved. Just we'd have no money, and suburban Dublin can look great if you shoot it the right way, and all those cool alleyways, and I don't know, I was just that's where I kind of grew up. So that was it. I sort of said suburban Dublin and don't have any airport scenes, kind of thing. So he came back with an idea about two sisters, and that's where it started. So I mean, we have to own the fact that both me and Paul are pale Irish men in our 40s making a film about two teenage girls in Dublin, but
it's nice that you guys want to. Like, I think that's what's different now than maybe like 5 or 10 years ago, where it was just like the only, or like most of the stories are coming of age stories about men. Like it does seem to be, the camera is kind of shifting, and the conversation is shifting, and it's nice. Like it's nice that people are seeing themselves represented on screen a bit more. Yeah, so
I was interested because I just have a brother myself, so I'm interested about sister dynamics, and so this was it was about 7 years ago, so we were, and anyway, went through various cycles with Andrew, and then he left, and Rory Martin took it on, and he was very much, Paul's original script was a bit darker. He had the next door neighbor was actually the kind of the twin originally, and he was like a goth, even though there was Gary the goth, so it kind of felt like there were two kind of competing characters quite similar, and the next door neighbor, he ended up kind of going crazy and killing people at a party at the end.
That is dark.
And getting Emma pregnant, who has to get an abortion, and Chantal brings her over. And I remember Rory in the film were going, like, is this a Donnie Darko, or is it a sweet teenage story, because the characters that he came back with were very funny and sort of warm, and even the two guys, Alan and Gary, they were funny. Do you know what I mean? And warm, and I was like, does it really need this? And I was pushing it a bit. I was trying to make it darker and go, I like the kind of nasty, meeting the graveyard. And he was this mysterious, cool kid, but it felt like those characters were sort of maybe bashing against each other a bit. So when we went back to, we sort of, Paul sort of said, what about if you made him a little bit older? And, that sort of changed the dynamic. And so that's how it slowly kind of changed. So
kind of makes it darker in a different way as well.
True.
Like it's this kind of slightly predatory guy, which I think is, like that. It's an interesting watch as well, rather than, like having someone kind of goth be I think that's a really, really good choice.
Great.
And I love the balance of the humor in it. Like Aaron is a joy.
He's so funny.
Like it's just his character, the way, like all his little deliveries, like it's just so enjoying to watch that throughout.
It's so much fun.
Yeah. Every time he's on screen, I just get excited because I was like, what is he going to come out with next?
I know.
He seems like he's having fun with the character.
Exactly.
Like he's like, this is for me. I'm going to take this. I'm going to run with it.
Yeah. Well,
his lines are just hilarious.
He's just so funny. I mean, because I'd seen him in shows, but he did this puppet thing on Collapsing Horse's website. I see it on YouTube, and he does a kind of a D4 puppet. So I showed Treasure Guys. I was like, look, this is him, And so he did a tape for us, and he kind of took his shirt off in the van, and I was just pissing myself laughing. So even on the days, like he was, we told him to kind of improvise, and he just came out with the lines like, sort of in rehearsal while we were sitting there, and he was just so funny. So and it kind of gives a looseness to the others as well a bit. They felt a little bit, more able to do that, because it wouldn't have been right for Jordan to kind of be an improvisee kind of character. You know what I mean? She sort of was a little, I was sort of been saying this before, a little bit more of the Molly Ringwald in those John Hughes movies, where she was actually quite straight and not that funny. She kind of felt it all. Yeah. And the others could kind of be funnier and be a little bit sweeter because she was feeling it, and she wasn't jokey or just, mock cool. So I felt Jordan is so honest and real as a person and as an actor that you didn't really need to, get her to be funny or try and be super sarcastic. I mean, so we were so lucky to have her.
And what was the casting process like? When did everyone get on board, and when did you cast people opposite people? Because there's some great natural chemistry there. I think definitely between the two sisters, and actually between the two boys, even though they're so different.
I know.
I
know, it's sort of, I mean, they're like the supporting characters, which is really funny, So, Jordan was sort of, who was really cast? I don't know. I mean, I'd shot with Leah, actually, for my first, the Dublin Film Festival. I did a portrait exhibition in the last couple of years, and the first year, I think it was, I was doing it with Fiona O'Shea in Handsome Devil, and I know Fiona from ages ago. So I was saying, do you know any other good young actors? Because I was actually just for the exhibition, and he said Leah had been nominated for. I think it was for the Dublin Film Festival kind of Rising Star Award, and I think he had been as well. So I met her and shot with her, and I said, God, she felt like a Chantal when I met her, and I was like, well, do you want to maybe? And she was like, well, the Emma part sounds more interesting, and I've been gothy, and I was like, you're Chantal. So then Jordan, I was away doing a play and in America actually with Charlie Murphy, the actress, and we talked about Jordan, and I was away, but she went on tape, and I know Dave Tynan loved her, and I'm so blown away by her work. But we were all kind of conscious that she's from Tala. She's not the typical D4 kid. So she did a great tape and softened her accent a little bit. And I remember showing it to Charlie Murphy in New York, and I was like, I think she's kind of, even though it doesn't necessarily make sense, it's like she's so great. And Charlie was like, that's her. So I really thank Charlie for that. So yeah, and then they kind of, Sean Doyle, who plays Gary, he's an actor in a lot, has been in Fair City actually, but he's done a lot of stage. And Claire McCauley, our producer, her husband Hugh, saw Sean on a play and recommended him. He did a tape and he was great. And so yeah, Aaron, I think I can claim Aaron, and and then the others sort of slowly. And Jason O'Mara, we all knew. I went to college with Jason, and Dylan Moore, and we were so lucky to get, and so forth. So yeah.
So with your cast assembled, I suppose my question is, going in, directing your first feature film, how was the shoot for you? Like, it's different. Obviously, you've done the shorts, you've done music videos. How was it to step in and go, okay, I have so many days to get this done, and the pressure that brings with it?
Yeah, definitely the first day or two I was going, what have I got myself into? Like, because of this, it's more the time than anything. I mean, you will know, sets and stuff, and it's just about being super prepared and over prepared, I suppose. But still, the time, I've been saying that the monitor that we had, it has like the seconds, but also has the tenths of seconds, and it just, so it's constantly moving, and you're going, where's the time is just going all the time, so everybody just stop what you're doing. But you can't be like that either. So no, it was terrifying, but we worked really hard on the planning of it. So this is so nerdy, but we did storyboard. I storyboarded with Owen McLaughlin, and really bad crap drawings. But we spent 5 or 6 days doing that, and then I would type up shot lists sort of the night before. Every 15 minutes, kind of a plan. Even if you're kind of making it up, you're sort of going, if we're off the scene by 12, then at least we're safe enough to get this done by 1. And you're cramming like 5 or 6 scenes in a day. Obviously, 20-day shoot. So you just have to be really, really organized, and then move like the clappers and pretend that you're not really rushed for time. So then I was saying, you're acting so much, I feel, as a director as well, because you want everyone to feel like we've got loads of time. It's not, of course, let's go again, mix it up. And then Ben the AD's going, we've got to go.
Yeah, that's always the fun with the AD telling you that we gotta move.
Yeah.
And do you feel as well as working with these actors, do you, as an actor yourself, your background is obviously like an acting for a long time, not to be terribly
sadly
mean,
long
but
time.
like very, very, very long.
That's a good
time.
thing.
I looked at your like IMDb page, and I was like, oh my god. Have you taken the Death Becomes Her thing, or like did you start acting when you were like -2 or something?
I know.
But,
-2.
but yeah, do you feel like that maybe influences the way that you direct, especially when it comes to actors?
I suppose it has to, really. I suppose. I mean, it's a weird thing because you can't really be taught how to direct actors, and actors don't know how they want to be directed either. I mean, I was listening to an interview today with Alec Baldwin talking to, who was it? Stacey Keach. Alec Baldwin.
Your actor.
Yeah,
Stacey Keach was in American History X.
Exactly, and long, in so many great movies. And he was in Fat City that John Huston directed, and he was saying John Huston said there's only 2 directions: a little more, a little less.
That's kind of the George Lucas school as well.
It is,
faster and more intense.
Exactly, faster, more intense, slower.
Let's do it slower.
But honestly, that's not bad direction, because as an actor, you can get overfed stuff by a director who comes over and goes, well, I just want to think this, and you're trying to take in, you're going, I still have to remember my lines, and I guess I just need to know simple little motivations. So I remember Ian Fitzgibbon, the director, working with him years ago, and a thing called Show Bands, and he was so great to work with, and he really inspired me, because he'd just come over and he'd just slide in and go, fuck with them a bit. That was his only kind of direction, and you'd go, ooh, because it isn't like, say this line, and sometimes obviously you have to, get specific about stuff, but I'm still learning so much about all this. But it's almost like a little twist gives an actor so much more to play with, because then they feel like they're doing the work. So you can only, it's casting, really is. It's just getting good cast and then letting them go and try not to get in the way too much, I think.
So yourself, obviously, having worked with so many directors, you mentioned Ian Fitzgibbon there, and you've worked with the likes of Leslie Hallstrom, and I'm trying to think more, like obviously Brendan Muldowney, John Butler. Like, is there like things you kind of pick up as an actor off other directors where you're like, oh, I could use that when I'm directing my film, or are you like, I kind of want to go in and do it my way?
You just learn from every time, I think, because every job is different, and that's what's exciting about it. You do, and it rubs off in some way, I hope, but every director is different, so you're kind of picking up some tips, definitely. I mean, from John, he's got such a great relaxed, again, he projects it in a great way, because I know it's still stressful for him, but he just is so funny and calm on set, and you want that kind of atmosphere. I feel, because I've been on sets where the director screams and shouts and thinks that the crew respond to that and work faster, but actually, they're going to work as fast anyway. They want to be done. They've got more experience than him. I'm talking about something specific now, obviously, but it's like you sort of feel like they have to be worked a certain amount, and that's, for me, that's crazy, because it's got to be a collaborative process and a fun process, and everybody gets involved, and that's what's fun about it and makes it exciting and different every day, and accidents happen, and that's what you want. So,
and did anything change in the path? So you were saying, like, from the kind of writing to the first draft, or the shooting draft of the script, did anything change while you were shooting?
It did, yeah. In some ways, like there was I suppose tonally it did, and like, again, because we were, there was sort of extra characters in there. I do remember the kid who turns up who almost gets knocked over.
He was very funny. I was about to do the visual cue there, and I was like, but we're on a
Yeah,
podcast. There's no point. Just a middle finger.
He was actually called Weird Tim, and he had a few more scenes. Like, he was supposed to be on the lookout for Chantal at the party, and then we were gonna like crane up to him at the end, and it just didn't really work. Like, at some stage, I know Aaron was supposed to come back in with bagpipes for the gig at the end, because that was a whole other strand that he was using back, but we were like, it doesn't really make sense. We don't really want bagpipes in the song. So silly things like that changed. And I remember even calling Paul beforehand and saying, look, we're about to, shooting is coming up, and I'm going to have to really take this over now. And I'd warned him about this before, but he was very good about it, and basically said, scenes are going to change, lines are going to change, you're going to cringe about stuff, I'm so sorry in advance. Locations are gone, I don't know, things change so much, but that's the process of film. And I think he's been great, Paul. Like, we watched it obviously in the kind of a premiere in Dundrum about 2 weeks ago, and he was really nice about it afterwards, and he had to come to terms with stuff, but I think he's there now.
I think all writers have to kind of come to terms that they're not going to get all their script on screen, but as long as they're getting something on screen, that's all that matters.
And then when it came to like post-production and sound and stuff, obviously sound was a huge part of this. Did you musically working with those actors? Were they musicians at the time, or was this something you were getting in acting or singing coaches? Like, how important was that?
Yeah, I mean, we did. I mean, Sean is a really good sort of guitarist and singer, and Jordan was up for singing. Like, we gave her a bit of help, but so it was important that they all kind of felt musical, and we obviously had to write some music beforehand, and we wrote a song afterwards. So it was a huge part of it, and even getting the sound of the whole film right. Like, I don't know if you know, like, Chris Bell, this musician who was in Big Star in the 70s, and he had like one album called I Am the Cosmos, and I remember
I've heard of that.
Pete McDonald came to like our first really rough screening, because Treasure really have such experience in comedies particularly, and they said, look, we screen an early cut, it's going to be painful, nothing's even going to be finished, and it's going to be horrible, but it'll show us stuff. So we even tried on the montage at the beginning, this Chris Bell song called You and Your Sister that Pete McDonald had suggested, and it's a great track, and it was really sad, really slow, and it just set the film up a completely different way, and you look back and going, it's probably not the right call, and so then slowly going, synthy and maybe 80s, and then we heard Ships. I'd heard Ships. Actually, Dave Tynan had done a video for them, and I hadn't heard of them before, and they've got an amazing tracks, and so it slowly kind of felt, this feels more like John Hughes territory now, a bit 80s without being that. So John McPhillips, the composer, did an incredible job. So it was a huge part of it, and getting that soundtrack right, but it was really fun to do.
And do you know what it did? And I think it straddled a really good balance of being believable that those people could write and sing those songs, just about, like, they were very, very, very well produced, but just about.
It's ridiculous in a way, I know.
Yeah. but it did straddle the line of, it did seem within their wheelhouse as characters to be able to do it. Like, sometimes I think, and it's really funny, they do it in films with stand-up comedy as well, where they're like, this is supposed to be like a prolific comic, and they're like, oh, I'm wearing shoes today, and everyone is like laughing and shouting. So I think like it's a really hard tightrope to walk, and I think the film, like when I came out of it, I was like, well done. I thought that really
That's
worked.
Great.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Yeah. And the Mo character, he had a really interesting arc, like, and you kind of believe him as a rock star.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if he ever played guitar or whatever, but you kind of
He was in a band. He was in a band. Yeah,
I'm not surprised. None of that surprised me.
No.
Yeah.
It was tricky, and even I remember there's a great writer, Louise O'Neill, who's an old friend of mine, and would get her a couple of the drafts, and she read some of the drafts, gave us really good notes, just particularly on that character, and because it was so tricky to get right, and for a young girl, and it was really, we didn't want it to get into that sort of territory either, because it's not really, we want 15-year-old girls and to be able to watch this film, so it was trying to get that balance right as well, and in terms of, Louise was great in sort of going, I would fall for this guy at 18, bad boy musician, older. This feels a bit this. And, she kind of helped us. And then Jordan was great because she very much, even on the day, you'd be going, would you kiss him here? And she's going to go, wouldn't kiss him. You said that. And I was like, well, then don't say that. And, how about this? And play it real so that you would. And that really helped in terms of just getting them together. And anyway, so that was important because they've known each other before as well. So they were really great. They were a great team together too.
We can't include this. This is just for my own thing because it's a complete spoiler. Because he could just go like blah.
I know.
You know?
It was really important. And
Yeah.
even talking to him about it, like he was really passionate that he didn't want him to be just a plain obvious dick, you know, and which he kind of is. But we were sort of saying I felt like he sort of had depression, and you know, it was kind of a depressive state he was in, and you know, we care about him, even though he does give her good advice at some stage, but then he does all the wrong things.
I think that's a sign of a good kind of bad guy in a way. And I always say this thing about movies, like people don't just turn up bad. It's like there's stuff going on behind the scenes. I think it's a wise choice because in the film, like you kind of see why he is the way he is.
That's great.
And that doesn't necessarily make him a mess. He could be a bad guy. He's not a bad guy, but look, we're all molded.
I know.
And that's great to keep. And I think he played that character so well as well. Like
great.
Mo is just such a, you know, versatile actor from all the like roles he's played, and from this kind of play that part was just tremendous.
I know.
He's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, and I know it's sort of it's a straightforward, simple story. You know, like we knew that, and we're kind of going, I know this, but in a way, when you're that age, stories are sort of simpler in a way, and money isn't much of a bigger deal. And you know, we'll second guess ourselves after all this, because you sort of look back in so much of it going, was this the right call? I still don't know, but you know.
Do you feel though, like you're just saying that, and like feeling in your first movie, and I've gone through my first film as well as a co-writer, is I think, and I've heard Martin Scorsese even say about films he's made, it's just like you look at the film and see, I wish I could have done that, and I think we all go through that because it's never 100% perfect. It's always like, oh, we didn't get shot on that day. Do you feel, looking at the film now, I'm not saying put a percentage on it, but how would you feel? You're obviously happy with the film that you made.
You know, I think, you know, I suppose for me, and I was hoping that we could kind of create it, without sounding too pretentious, like a world that you would believe, where then these things can happen. I love movies that create their own world. You know, it's not really real. It's not really Dublin. You know, we didn't really want to make it Dublin either, so we tried to stay away from any kind of, you know, landmarks or anything. We mentioned Dublin once in the movie, and otherwise there's no, unless you recognise Temple Oak shopping centre, which is quite obvious. But you know, in a way, I was hoping that it could kind of sort of that teen movie feeling, even with the music and the look, and we used anamorphic lenses, and you know, trying to kind of make it this sort of different looking thing that is still fun and its own movie. I don't know. I feel like we kind of got there with that. You know, there's loads of things I would do differently and change, but you know, I'm glad that at least we got that much of you know, for a kickball scramble, as I say.
Do you find being behind the camera now has changed the way you look at performance?
I suppose it's like you really appreciate actors, because sometimes as an actor you can be a little bit, you know, why am I getting this part? Or, you know, you can be kind of frustrated by the parts that come in, and you obviously, as an actor, you're pretty much at the mercy of the material. You know, your only real power is saying no. You're not turning down things that you didn't get. So, you know, you have to kind of work with what you have. So that's great and exciting and makes every day different. But in a way, it can be frustrating too. So then coming to the directing side, because they're then the actors that you get in are bringing the stuff that you've been working on for so long to life. You just love them. You're like, oh my God, you're so great, you guys. You know, so more than you would be, I feel, as an actor, maybe you're appreciating them so much because they give such energy in life. Hopefully, unless they're complete dicks, obviously. But no, they're not. But so yeah, that really for me was a really nice thing to find, that I'm really appreciating actors, and obviously knowing a lot of them or working with them or whatever. You know, it's a lovely way to feel like you've already got a connection. So, you know, often as director, you know, you mightn't have met everyone, and it's just there's this little bit of a shield up. It's a weird thing to do, is to act in front of a camera in front of people. So obviously you need to break down some sort of barriers and make them relaxed and comfortable, and you know, or fake it. But you know, con men, or you know, it's confidence. They're tricking you into they're tricking you into believing in their confidence is really what acting is. You know, it's like it's you know. It's I'm trying to think of that Simpsons line, you know, smoke yourself thin, get confident, stupid. No. Anyway.
Would you be tempted to cast yourself and stuff? Like, or is that just something that is just that bit too hard to do?
I mean, you know, my worry would be that it's just really pretentious. But you know,
Mel Gibson did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that doesn't help.
No.
I actually quite like Mel Gibson in a lot of ways, so I know what you mean. No,
he was robbed for the Oscar for what women want, really. Like, let's be honest.
No, but I mean, I did have a tiny cameo in Metal Heart because I kind of got tucked into that, which is fun, you know, and that was silly. It was just a line, really, but I cut myself out. I had more lines, and I was like, no. Even the others were like, no, cut it. But and I actually, in the a short that I made with the Young Irish Filmmakers in Kilkenny, I played myself, but like a really dicky version of myself, coming to help them make a short film in Kilkenny, and I sort of take over, and I'm a nightmare. So that was really good fun because I got to play with my own sort of character as myself. But yeah, you never say never, but it wouldn't be high on my list, to be honest. I'm you know, it's hard enough making stuff, so I think, you know, if something came up, maybe. But yeah,
because like that's it. I know like a lot of actors can do writing to create their own show, like to create their own parts and to work on the things that they really want to do. But I do think there is that thing where it's hard to direct yourself. It's hard to kind of, you know, see what's missing when you're actually behind your eyes and not in front of the screen when you're doing the performance. And it's kind of a shame because it is that thing where anything you can do, it's so hard to make it in the industry. Anything you can do to give yourself more kind of agency around what you're doing is a big benefit.
It's true. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that Kenneth Branagh has a friend of his who was on set all the time and kind of directs him for him, if you know what I mean. And I was, you know, when I did that short, there was a great actress called Bear Thompson. I love her name, Bear Thompson, and she was in the short. She was actually in Bow Street. She's an English writer and actor, and I cast her. She played one of the teachers that we pretended was one of the people in the school, and she was also my kind of director for the short. She was amazing, and she came up with so many great ideas, and it just felt so confident to have her watching from the monitor and going a bit more here, because, you know, I wasn't able to do that as well. So yeah, I think there's ways to do it, and I wouldn't be rushing back to that as much.
I suppose then going into the future after your first feature film, is there anything you'd like to do? Anything you are doing that you can talk about?
I've been saying, I think I'm done. You know, when you've gone so high, so fast. No, I am working on lots of things. I've directed a pilot for RT that's going to be on in September. So they commissioned 4 pilots.
Oh yes,
a comedy pilot.
That's the one that was on IMDb and it was in post or something like.
It was there on Head Cases.
Oh, Charlie Bailey wrote it, and Shauna Kerslake.
Exactly.
That's amazing. Yeah, she went just after Sundance.
Exactly. So we were waiting for it to come back. Yeah. So we directed that in February. So that was my first TV, the pilot, obviously. So that was really great. And Carl shot it. And we had an amazing cast all from around Artane. So I'm really excited. That was really fun, and Charlie wrote a great script, and she's got the whole series mapped out. But it's a weird one. We don't know what's going to happen. I think we can say this because I think they're going to screen the 4 of them in September around then, and then I think it just depends on how they go down and viewership.
That's kind of good. But it's like anything, like you put it out there and it's what the audience react to.
And I suppose that's how American companies do it. Exactly. Yeah.
Do you feel as well like that? These different kind of genres of projects, when you have different hats on, that it takes different things from you or gives different things from you creatively.
Definitely.
Because theatre, acting for film, and then directing, they're just so different.
Yes.
And teaching.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's kind of the fun, you know. I mean, we were talking the other day about the multi-hyphenate thing, and as part of this panel, Screen Skills Net, and Mark O'Halloran and Nick Riagora, and you know, in a way, in America now, it's sort of becoming not a dirty word, where, although most people never heard of multi-hyphenate, but, you know, as if you're a showrunner in LA particularly, you know, you do write, you do produce, you probably, you're a creator, so you are putting multiple hats on, and so in a way it's a good thing, you know. And I love the acting side of things because you do keep learning and you keep getting to work with new directors and learn and being just working on one particular thing. So, but then you kind of get antsy for other stuff. So I did do an animation project that took another 10 years as well, and I'm working on 1 or 2 other things, another short, like, and things like this. But you never know. And you know, guys, who know yourselves, like, it's almost, you need to keep a few balls in the air because nothing is ever going to go right away. So the more projects, but the more that you believe in, that you can kind of rotate and let the balls fall once crash onto the ground. Exactly. As they crash one by one on the floor.
Okay, so just wondering, where can we watch Metal Heart right now?
Well, it's still in cinemas, I think pretty much nationwide. So yeah, it should be hopefully findable for the next few weeks, but it really depends on people going to see it. So I'd love if people would. Everybody, support Irish film with your wallets. Make sure you go see it. Thanks, guys. All right, well, look, thanks so much for Thanks, guys. That was great. It was a pleasure. I really enjoyed it.